Hi guys, how are you? Welcome back to my garden on a really lovely spring day. I'm still wearing my winter jacket, but I'm only wearing my winter jacket because the nights are still cold and it is morning. So I think in an hour from now, I could just throw the jacket on the terrace there and forget about it for the rest of the day. That would be so beautiful. There's no wind, the sun is out. It's just the perfect day for planting. Not sure how many videos I managed to do this week because we are getting closer to finish the renovation inside the house. The hardwood floors are in. The doors, unfortunately, are delayed, so we can't really close the rooms right now. But we already started with furnishing and really thought about like selling some of the old furniture and just buying some new things. So yesterday I was like, okay, I want to have a new closet and I finally want to have a TV in my room. So drove out, arrived at the furniture shop. They had the closet itself, but then it all started to just go down. It's one of those days, and I think you all know, like when it happens, you should just call it a day, be like, you know what, let's just not continue here because there's like bad karma involved in today. And this is exactly what happened yesterday. Like the doors weren't available. So I was like, okay, checked online. Yeah, you can order them online, fine. Next thing, the rails for inside the closet weren't available, not even online. I was like, ooh, now it gets a little tricky. And we asked like, do they gonna come back? And they're like, yeah, end of April, eventually. And I was like, eventually is a word I never really like to hear here. So I thought, okay, maybe in Germany I can just buy them there, take them with me by car, fine. Bought all the other things, TV, whatever we needed. Drove back here, started installing. I was like, oh, let's just start with the curtains. So I finally have curtains in the room because I think like whenever you have like nice drapes next to the window, it kind of like makes it warm and cozy immediately. Put the fixtures on there and I wanted to attach the rod, and then I saw the rod is too short. I bought the wrong size. It was just too short. I should have measured it. Because standing in the shop, I was like, oh, how long is it? No, the long one is too long. Well, I should have taken that one. So I was like, all right, fine. Next project, TV. Installed the TV. Everything is on the wall. Everything worked fine. And the guy sold us the wrong cable. He sold us a cable for if you have cable TV, but not for satellite dish. So that wasn't working. And I was like, okay, set up the closet. At least that was fine. No problem there. Like, I mean, I just had like 50% of the parts I needed, but better than nothing. And at one point I thought, let's just drive back to the stores. And you know what? Let's just exchange the rods. Let's exchange the cables. So at least when we drive back there, there's some sort of like accomplishment of doing something nice by the end of the day. Drove to the stores, and yesterday, guess what? They all closed earlier. So I was like, okay, good. 1 hour drive for nothing, so I drove back and I thought, I should have just done what I do today, take you out with me into the garden and have a nice time in the garden, because that is never disappointing me. And that's what I'm going to do today now with you. You know, I ordered different kind of perennials. They're all still sitting on the driveway, waiting to be planted. And today I want to start planting the first 2 specimens here in the midsection of the garden. So just behind you, I'm not going to swing around because then there's the sun, you're going to see anything. I'm going to give you a tour in a second. Just behind you, there is the island bed, and there I'm going to plant just in the midsection of the island bed. There are 2 big walnut trees in the island bed, and last year a couple of people asked me like, how do you plant them? Because walnut trees are very popular for being difficult in the garden, and they are with certain perennials, but there are a lot of perennials that are very happy planting neighbors with the walnut tree. So later on in the year, when everything looks a little more like abundant and vibrant and interesting, I intend on giving you a tour and just like some recommendations of what you can plant under a walnut tree, because actually it's not that difficult. What I'm going to plant today obviously is going to work because I already have it in another area of the island bed. That is full sun facing, really southwest facing, so what goes in there really appreciates full sun, and also it is a little bit like a mound on the island bed, which means that our poor soil is even drained better there. So I cannot plant anything that really likes to thrive with a lot of moisture basically. But then I'm going to plant on the opposite of the island bed as well, and that is completely different area because there are more shrubs. There is an apple tree in there, so it means it is partly shaded. So a total different perennial is going to go into that area. So what I'm going to do now first, obviously as usual, I'm going to flip the phone and just give you a tour of both areas and show you what I intend on planting with you today. Isn't that the most beautiful spring day possible? Clear blue sky, sun is out, it's warm, the birds are singing, no wind, which is most important. Always no wind makes it 10 times more beautiful. I start hardening off all of my plants that I grew indoors so far. A lot of them, you know them. Here are my dahlias, cosmos that we potted up together, ricinus, the castor bean. It looks really nice though. It started to be a little droopy the second I put it out because it was obviously like pampered indoors with lovely warm temperatures, but it still continues to grow strong. Over there, cucumbers, some climbers, very beautiful, but not going to plant any of those today. We're going to focus on these areas here. So on the right, there is the island bed in between 2 big walnut trees, and you can tell already today it is full exposure exposed to the sun. Like in the back there is west and to the right there is south, which means that area is filled with a lot of sun. Well, this bed here on the other hand has a lot of trees and shrubs in there. At this time of the year there's still a lot of sun in there, but in a month from now, when all of those trees and shrubs have foliage, the situation will be quite different. So I have just the perfect perennials for both situations, which I'm going to show you. I have 15 plants sitting here, and just by looking at the foliage, some of you might realize what it is. Those are thistles, globe thistles or echinops, and they came with a label, so I can even show you the variety name because I ordered them online. This is called Tableau Blue. I grow it already in a different area of the garden. Very reliable, beautiful. Going to give you some more information in a while. And they will go straight in the middle of the island bed here, because in the middle there is most of the sun, it's fully exposed, and thistles obviously can cope extremely well with poor soil and with full sun, so I think that they will be very happy here. But before I can plant them, I am going to do some replanting in the border here, because you can tell that I'll just come up with my finger. Here are 4 box spheres, and I want them to grow into one cloud effect, and they just start doing it, so I think that'd be very beautiful. But next to it I put a cotinus, and honestly I'm not sure why I put it so close next to the box spheres, because I don't think that that is a very nice look. So the cotinus, here it is, will move over there, which means some of the phlox plants will move, and that would just change the direction of the drift. So the drift of phlox now goes this direction, and then I want it to go this direction here. Cotinus goes there, and then the echinops can all go here, in between the roses and the box spheres. I think that'd be just a really beautiful look. I feel I have just the perfect perennial for this side of the garden as well. You might remember the very third video that I ever shared with you was last autumn, where I planted autumn anemones here at the front of the garden. So I bought them fully grown in flowering stage last year. They went in there, they looked really beautiful. I think they all came back after winter, which is beautiful. And look there, my friend the mole back again, just a tiny pile, but still need to shovel that off in a moment. So what I want to do is put more autumn anemones here. A variety that grows a little higher with very long, delicate stems, pink flowers. So I think it would be just beautiful to put them behind the drift of hydrangea paniculata that I have in this border. I already put the first 4 containers in here to space them out and see. And obviously they came with a label as well. So this is autumn anemone tomentosa serenata. Going to give you more information about these as well before I plant them. And the single plants, they are looking really cute and nice already. First leaves are out, they have loads and loads of new shoots appearing, so I'm very happy with the quality. I think that they'd be absolutely perfect here. And just using a little less plants on autumn anemones quite often works fairly well, because they build runners, kind of like asters do. So in the first year, you might not have the biggest drift, but then next year I'm really hoping to have a really nice impact. In total I have 9 plants, which means I have 4 here, I have 5 further down the border, and I do that because I think it's nice to repeat the same kind of perennial in a border. It kind of makes it easier for the eye, and your eye kind of like gets drawn to the back of a garden. So here I have 3 roses. They are called novales, beautiful double flowers, a romantic rose, flowers violet, and autumn again, which means that they might come to bloom the same time as these autumn anemones. So I'm gonna put 5 of them here just next to the evergreen, which is not looking good. Hit by frost, not gonna comment anymore about it. Hopefully it comes back to life. Oh, I was a little sad about that. But the reason why I put 5 containers here and 4 in the front is that when you sit on the terrace, it is nicer to have the bigger drift towards the end of the garden, because visually it is just nicer to have a bigger impact towards the end. But before I will start planting the anemones, I will focus on this area, because in the island bower there is some transplanting, which means a little more work goes into this area. As always, before I start planting anything in the garden, I just like to give you a few quick key details about those plants. And just in case if you're not growing any echinops in your garden yet, maybe it can inspire you to do so, because they are the perfect plant for those gardeners who are a little bit on the lazy side, or who do not like to deal with fuzzy plants such as I do. I do not like to have any plants that need special care, attention, or need pampering at all. So this is why I love sedums, because they're one of those plants that you put in the ground, forget about them, and this is exactly the same how it works with echinops. They are just the perfect planting partner for your sedums, because they require just exactly the same thing, which is full sun, poor soil, and those are the 2 things that I can absolutely give them. Here down at the south coast of the Baltic Sea, we have quite sandy soil in this area, area, which means it is well drained, absolutely perfect for these, especially during winter time. They do not appreciate to sit in a puddle because the dampness of winter and the cold temperatures, this is what kills them. But since the soil is always well drained, there is no risk of this happening at all. Do not try and plant them in a partly shaded area. I can tell you, I tried it and it does not work. They might come to flower not as beautiful as in full sun, and over the time they would just gently fizzle out, and at one point they're just not going to come back at all. And I think this would be very sad because they are absolutely beautiful plants. They just bring an element of texture to your border, and I think this is always very important to consider. Not only do they have these really beautiful leaves like a crown and then really leafing out from this center part, which is really special and beautiful, they bring this element of texture with their flower heads, because globe thistles, they produce these round sphere flower heads. They are on these long delicate stems floating in your border, and they will flower tabler blue in blue. Very beautiful steely blue blooms come to flower in around July, August, September time. After they stop flowering, they look a little brownish on the outer side of those spheres. But what you can do is you just come in with your hand, rub these brown spent flower heads off and reveal what's hiding underneath. It is still steely blue and beautiful. So they will look blue in your border for at least, I would say 5, maybe even 6 months, which is value for whatever perennial you put in your border. Because most of them, they look kind of nice for 6, 7 weeks, maybe when they flower, and then the show is over. Not with these. They are very beautiful for a very, very long time, and even through winter, before those flower heads kind of start to fall apart, which is also quite graceful. They still have this element of texture and architecture in the border, so definitely worth considering. They're very hardy, which is beautiful as well. They go down to a zone 4. I'm in a zone 7B, so they should be very happy here, and they are happy because I already grow a couple here and in the front garden in a sunny area as well. So I'm very happy to amp up my game with those. Another very nice thing about them is that they are completely resistant to pests like slug or snail, which is important for me here because, you know, it is like a very moist area. Here there is a river just on that side, and on that side there is a farmland with a lot of like mist always coming also from the Baltic Sea, which is over there. So I can tell you the first slugs and snails I already came out, and I was like, oh hooray, now we start again in a month from now at latest. I will do my rounds again, start collecting them, because they do some damage, especially to Rudbeckia. I don't know what it is. They smother them. Surprisingly, dahlias, not such a problem, and hostas, not at all. I mean, knock on wood, shouldn't jinx it now, but so far the hostas never had slug damage here, which is beautiful. But yeah, this is what I know. This is not fuzzy, it's very easy, and all I'm going to do now is get in there, start preparing the area, which means first thing, I'm going to lift some of those phlox. This is Phlox Freudenfeuer. It's a German variety, kind of zingy color. Pink with a blue center eye, very beautiful, quite vibrant and good for borders as well. Nice, I think, as a contrast with this, because this is going to flower blue and then you have the phlox with a blue eye. So I think there's a nice correlation in between those two plants, obviously. Then I'm going to lift the Cotinus, quickly put it into its new location, and then I plant these. Planting these, however I plant anything, dead level, and then I just put some starting fertilizer in there, which in my case is always organic bone chips. Just sprinkle some in there, plant it, mulch it again, and then they should be very happy. So let's start the planting. Alright, the Echinops is planted and the phlox and the cotinus are lifted in their new areas, and I can tell you that was a lovely project because what I did last year is I came in between the cherry tree here and the walnut tree back there, removed a lot of the native soil, and then I just came in with bags and bags of fresh garden compost, dug it all under to improve the soil structure, and that was well worth it because now lifting the cotinus was extremely easy. I could just come in with my spade quite far away from the actual trunk because cotinus has shallow roots, so you do not want to break any of those when you lift it, and just gently go with my spade under the shrub and push it up, and it really came up with, I think, all of its roots. I really don't think I've broken a single root, which is perfect, so it's not really disturbing anything. Put it into its new area, just watered it in well, some starting fertilizer, firmed it in, it's planted dead level, mulched it, so I think I'd be very happy there. Obviously what I'm going to do now is quickly flip the phone, give you a tour of those things that I did here before we walk over back there and plant the autumn anemones. But guess what? Even though today's video is about planting perennials, I think the one thing that is going to make me most happy is literally that I got in there and moved the cotinus. Don't you think it looks so much nicer with the cotinus being moved away from those box spheres? Because now they really start to make sense and you can really appreciate every object in the bed as it is. You really have these box spheres growing as a little cloud together, and then in the center of the bed you have this drift of hardwoods with a cotinus next to the cherry tree, and then a drift of roses. So it is almost a little bit like a separation in the island bed, which I quite like because it really makes it feel more like a border with a front and a back. So there was always something I struggled with over the past years, but I think I'm getting there. I really think the more I do in here, the better it gets. So what I have is I have a drift of phlox basically really meandering through here, which I think is going to be just beautiful. Cotinus is just there. There are the roses, and in between the phlox and the roses there is a drift of Echinops, and they will grow to a height of about 80 centimeters, according to label up to 1.20 meters, which does not happen here. So definitely 80 centimeters, which is 32 inches if I'm not wrong. Better do your math on your own because I'm so bad in math. But they will be just perfect in height because they're not like towering. They're really mixing and mingling with the roses, with the box spheres, with the aqualita, with everything that is happening here, with the grasses. So I'm very excited, can't wait to show you updates later on in the year. Before I go in there and start planting these beauties, I obviously want to give you some quick details about them, because if you don't grow autumn anemones in your garden yet, maybe I can encourage you to do so, because next to asters, they're just one of autumn's finest, obviously. When it comes to the planting, now is the best time of the year to do so. Even though I know in autumn the temptation is big, and clearly I couldn't resist, because you go to the garden center and you see these rows full of autumn anemones in their containers, in their full growing height, wonderful, beautiful blooms, and you go, oh, I need to have it. But the problem is that at that time of the year, the plants are very busy with producing seeds. And when you plant them, they do not root out well enough anymore. And then the risk is that you might lose them over winter because the roots stay just in the shape of the container and how you planted them, basically. Well, if I plant them now in spring, I plant a tiny module. Doesn't look like a lot, but it has the entire spring and summer to root in well, and only then it produces its energy to start flowering. This one here is called Serenata, and it has pink flowers. Very beautiful. Never grown it before. I have never even seen it. I only know it from online photos, so fingers crossed, got to be nice. But what I love about it already is that it is quite tall. It can grow up to 1.20 meters in height, so it really has this delicate towering stems. Very whimsical and romantic, obviously, also when it is pink, and very open flowers, something that I always appreciate a lot, because then all the pollen are exposed, so whatever hungry bee flies by has the ability to fly in and collect some of the pollen here. Autumn anemones are in general quite toughies, though they originate from an area from Japan over China all the way to the Himalayas, and this variety here is down to zone 3. I was just thinking about, zone 3. I just did a research, because with the climate zones I'm sometimes not so sure about it, but this is super, super tough. If you think about it, it can really withstand a lot of cold temperature, so it might be just perfect for a lot of your gardens as well. In terms of location, I told you already, they like to thrive in partly shade. They also thrive in sun, if you make sure that they don't dry out completely. In partly shade, they can cope with periods of drought a little better, which is good for me because nothing is on irrigation here in this garden. I personally think this area will be very good for them because, surprisingly, that area of the garden has quite good soil structure, and I think it has to do with the fact that there are so many trees and shrubs, because before I arrived and started gardening here, nobody collected those leaves, so they would just fall down, start to rot, break down, and if you start digging there, the soil up to like maybe 20 centimeters in depth, I would say, looks a lot like leaf compost in a way. It is quite black, it is crumbly, it has very lovely lofty texture. So perfect for these, obviously. I don't need to improve the soil at all. All I do is try and make sure that I plant them dead level, put some starting fertilizer in, then they should be happy. And that's exactly what I'm going to do now, take you with me to the border and plant 9 of these wonderful autumn anemones. Okay, the anemones are planted, and I have to say though, doing these videos in late summer or autumn, by the end of the video I have this big reveal moment of like, ooh, it looks so much nicer, right? And now I'm going to flip the phone and show you how it looks, and it's going to look just exactly the same as before because those plants are so tiny that they disappear. In the mulch, you can't tell anything. You can't tell a difference, or even that I planted anything. You really need to like focus on like, oh, there's something, there's like a leaf. But I don't mind, because I know it's bound to work. In autumn, I can do autumn garden tours here, and it's going to look hopefully very beautiful. I hope they're rooted. Need to remind myself maybe to water them in every now and then. We have rain in the forecast maybe in 2 or 3 days from now, so have an eye on that. I'm not going to water them in now because the soil is very moist and lovely in that area there. On the island bed though, I have watered everything here, but not on my back. I think I can get around it today. Let's see. What I'm going to do still is quickly give you a tour and then call it a garden day. It's beautiful, the sun is out, it's nice and warm, so I need to figure what I do for the rest of the day in the garden. Isn't that such an amazing impact? I mean, it looks so beautiful. Just look at that. Mulch. You're literally looking at mulch right now because you need to find the anemones. I really need to go down to show you because the leaves are almost the same color as the mulch. So here's a plant. Very nice though. A lot of leaves are just appearing, very strong from the base, and I think they'd be so happy in here because now they're out of their tiny containers. They were not pot bound, which is also perfect. So I could just use them as they were, put them straight into the ground. They should be very, very happy in here. And I'm excited if they're going to come to flower, how they're going to look. In the backdrop, there is a little drift of grass, which is panicum. Yeah, forgot what variety it is, but it's panicum. I can still look what variety it is, so if they come back in autumn and I do a garden tour, then I can tell you what it is. But I'm really happy about today's project. You guys, that is it for today's video, and what a lovely way to start a day. It feels so good and accomplishing, so much better than yesterday when nothing was working out quite well. So garden did exactly what it does best. It relaxes you, makes you happy. Can't wait to show you updates, obviously, on how things are progressing in here. A lot more planting videos are on their way because you know there are more perennials waiting on the driveway. Hope you're excited about those videos as well. I just want to say thank you so much for watching today's video. Also, thank you if you subscribe to my channel. It makes me very, very happy. Love to welcome you in my garden very soon again. Take care, guys. Bye.